Hey everyone, my name is Porush and welcome back to this new episode of the Long Live Cinema Show. And today we have with us writer director Sripal Sama, whose first feature film, which was a Telugu-American feature film, How's That for a Monday, received many accolades in film festivals last year, and it also received a limited theatrical release from PVR last year. And right now, that film is available for streaming on ET Win in India and on Amazon Prime Video in the US. In this episode, Sripal shares his journey of hailing from Warangal and then moving into the US for an IT job, but then pursuing filmmaking as something on the side with the hope of making it a full time job. He shares his experience of making his first feature film at a shoestring budget of just 72 or $73,000. I know that sounds a lot in India, but for someone who's making a film in the US, that's not quite a lot of money that you would actually require for making a feature film. And he shares so many anecdotes, so many behind the scenes moments about how certain scenes, how certain limitations were taken care of on the set, and how he had to wear multiple hats of not just the writer director but also taking care of the crew, being the second assistant director, having multiple roles on the set because of the budget constraints and because of the limited availability of resources. We discuss a lot more about Telugu cinema. We also talk about Gopal Verma. We also talk about some of the Telugu films that you must watch if you are watching Telugu cinema for the very first time. A lot of questions were answered, and we had a lot of fun during this conversation. Hope you have the same fun as well. So sit back, relax, and let's start the show. Thank you so much for joining, Shripal. It's an absolute privilege to be talking to you, and congratulations for all the accolades. How's that for a Monday's winning? And first of all, I have a confession to make that I got to know about you and your film quite early because of Ram Venkat Shrikhar's article interview with you. But I was very late to the party, and then finally and I knew that you were following me on Twitter, so thank you for that. But at the same time, I was like, wait, this guy's following me. I have to watch this film. But then eventually, you were kind enough to just share the link with me. So thank you and sorry at the same time. So that's
Yeah,
there.
that's cool. Yeah, I know it has a limited reach. The theatrical release was sort of very limited, and right now
Right.
also only on a few limited platforms. So yeah, many people are having issues with accessibility, but it should open up pretty soon for wider with more platforms. So yeah,
Excellent.
I'm looking
Excellent.
forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think the most important question that I want to start with is, did you book your tickets for Dune 2?
June 2, yes, yeah.
Okay.
This week I'm watching. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And did you watch Brahmyugam?
Not yet. No, it's not nearby, but I'll have to make some effort to watch it. Yeah, I think yeah, maybe this week as well. Yeah, I'll have to
Okay.
travel like 40 miles, but I'm sure it's worth it. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. I got the chance to watch it like in the weekend, and I'm sure that it is going to be worth your time.
yeah,
So, I want you to, I would love to, for you to take me briefly through your journey of making the film. Like, from where did you start? How did you assemble the team? How did it, sort of all came together? And then you had something like, how's that for a Monday? And then the journey
yeah,
went on.
yeah. So when we started, it was one of the main pointers was I have a certain amount of budget, and I cannot travel to other countries. This was in 2021, where there was still travel ban. So those were my constraints, and also I cannot have a crew which is larger than maybe 12 people because of the local restrictions, crowd restrictions for COVID. So these were some pointers, non-negotiable pointers I had. With that, we had to tell a story that is still compelling. um, so some of the current affairs that were happening at that time, based on that, and some of the storylines I had, ideas I had before, we kind of we did a little bit of brainstorming on what can we do with these restrictions, what is a story that we can tell that is still interesting for us and that's still compelling. And that's how the writing process started. And then at one point when we thought, okay, there is a good enough story for us to tell, we started doing the screenplay. And then parallelly, so there was a different film for which I did some casting. That film didn't take off. The film's name was Gas Station. It was uh, dropped because of the COVID travel ban and everything. So I casted some actors already for that project, and I know, you know who is good for what character in this. So some of them I approached. They said, okay, yeah, let's do this. And for the others, we had to do the casting. And yeah, the budgeting, location scouting, everything I did by myself. Like when you have a crowd restriction, the team that you can cut off is the direction team. So I took most roles in the direction team, like the script supervisor, first AD, second AD, and also a lot of roles in production. And then, which means I did the location scouting with my co-writer. We did the casting, we did the scheduling, we did budgeting, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's how the film took off.
That's great to hear. Uh, since this was your debut film, so like of course you just mentioned that there was another script, but then ultimately this is the film that came out to be your first feature. So, did you find any difficulty, or was there any struggle in terms of making the cast and crew and your actors believe in the concept? Because I think when you start making your film, your debut film, you might struggle sometimes to make someone believe in you and share that
Yeah,
same excitement and enthusiasm. So
yeah, right.
did you come across any of such situations?
I did. More of that happened to one of my other short films, because called Trashed. Because when I was doing that, I didn't have anything, decent to show to the crew or the cast members. um, but with this film, I had some profile already. I worked for a couple of films here and there. I have a couple of decent short films. So they were able to reference check, okay, if he did this short film, maybe this film could be, at least somewhat decent. So that helped a little bit. But still, I think it's basically what I understood is, when you don't have a name, the way you approach your cast and crew is what is going to make a difference. Like you send them a script, they say, okay, fine, send the script, let me check. You send them the script, and then if the script is good, that wins some trust. And then the way you communicate, are you doing it professionally? And it's basically your interaction is what have to build the trust, because you don't have a name already. Yeah. And even then, when on the first day of the filming on the set, people will be skeptical for at least 3-4 days. You will have to build the trust. And like, even, you don't have to prove that you are a master, but you have to prove that you are genuinely passionate about this. And oh, this guy is really, he really want to make a good film. Even if he, this is his first time and he's struggling in a couple of areas, I can see he's a little bit nervous, but looks like he really want to make a compelling film. If they get that feeling, they are with you. Actually, yeah, that happened. After 3-4 days of our schedule, the actors were really cooperative. Like, they went above and beyond to help. Like, I had to reschedule a couple of times. Sometimes I had to ask them, can you bring the wardrobe by yourself, that kind of stuff. And they're all like, okay, yeah, anything to help. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. It's always great to have such a collaborative and supportive crew, because ultimately filmmaking is, I think, one of the synonyms of filmmaking is collaboration.
Yeah.
So I think you were very lucky when it comes to having a collaborative crew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, was it also like in the beginning when you thought of doing this, that like was it difficult to make your family also understand your pivot towards filmmaking?
Yeah, that is a longer story,
Okay.
yeah. So it spans for over a decade. My dad is still not convinced that this is the right path, or I'll be able to make good films. But I'm married.
Yeah.
So convincing my wife is another thing, but she figured over multiple number of years, project after project, either it is a short film or writing a script or putting together a movie, something works, something doesn't work. I think
Mm.
she was able to figure out, okay, he's not kidding, he wants to do, he's serious, he really loves doing it. So again, same, just like I always said about the cast and crew, it's the winning their trust. Like, okay, he's serious, and I always tell them, there's one life,
Yeah.
there's one thing what we can do is you just be safe, and then when you get 60 or 55 or 65, you regret looking back, or take a little chances, and then my wife seems to be convinced. So yeah, and
Yeah.
but it's also a very over the time gradual process.
Right. Right. I would like to double down on what you just mentioned about taking chances and convincing others. So I believe that right now, like when you start your journey, you have to first convince yourself that you will be able to achieve what you want to achieve.
Yes,
So I would love for you to take me back to that day and that moment when you first started penning down the script. And was that a Monday?
I don't know. I mean, the
Okay.
title came to picture much later, so I
Okay.
didn't track which day it was. Yeah, and a lot of times it's even tough to point like one specific day, because you're scribbling, you're thinking about it, you write one draft, you throw it, so we don't know when exactly we started. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
No, but like, can you just? I would love to know how. What was something that was going on in your head when you just started penning down the script? What is it that you were thinking at that moment? Did you have self doubt? Did you felt that, wait, maybe I should once again think about this? Because once you start penning it down, then you kind of feel that, wait, now there is no going back because now I am actually doing this. But should I do it? Did you have any kind of self doubts at that moment?
For this script, for
Yes,
always
for the
African American.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so it's both go together, like excitement, great deal of excitement. I'm going to make a masterpiece, but also, would it even work? I don't know. I'm not even sure if this is going to work together. Both feelings will be there, and the truth is somewhere in between.
Okay.
But yes, I was both, like, you know you brainstorm and you seem to have landed on a good idea, so that's exciting. Okay, this I think this moment is going to be great, when the hero comes here, that kind of stuff. So we are visualizing, we compare it with some of the films that we watched, and we feel like, okay, this is going to be really good. I'm doing something great. There's that. But also, when you write each individual scene, you know does it make sense? Are the audience gonna turn off at this point of time? That kind of a doubt. So it's both. And the real judgment is when you actually keep writing and distance yourself, take a couple of days off, and then think about it. And it's a repeating exercise for a few months. So when all of this happens, at one point you have some kind of an objective assessment. I think
Right.
this is what the movie could do, practically speaking, and more or less that turns out to be the result. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of what your film could do, is there any moment that you look back and feel that maybe we could have done this better?
There's many, production wise, basically there's at least a few scenes.
Okay.
If I could do again, I would do better.
Okay.
At that point of time, I know I was limited by the resources I had, either time or the crew or budget. But maybe I would get a little bit more creative. Even with those constraints, I would have done a couple of scenes better than how
Right.
it is in the movie. But you're always, I think, any filmmaker is thinking that way. Like Maniratnam says, like, I know I don't want to watch it because I know I could have done better. So yeah, I think it's a common feeling. Yeah.
Right, right. No, what I meant is that maybe when you look back, and you're absolutely right that I guess every storyteller feels that maybe I could have done this with more finesse, more cinematically. I could have taken another shot. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to know if you had like similar feelings. Uh,
Yes, yes, yeah. Like the opening, the second scene when the
right.
gang is whispering, before
Yeah.
the break in. I could have done that better, or the pawn shop scene. But basically, the first 15 minutes, there are many things I could have done better. Yeah, I think. Yeah, but
Okay.
mostly the after the 45 minutes to 90 minutes, I wouldn't touch. I think. Yeah, I mean, those could have used a little bit more budget, but I think dramatically they worked well. And for the tone of the film,
Right.
the last 45 minutes seem to be pretty well, sitting there. But I could have definitely done at least three scenes better. Yeah.
Yeah. But going on the opposite spectrum, what is your favorite moment from your film? I know it's very difficult because, choosing from your baby's key, which is
Yeah.
which is a better one. But then any like the moment that you will remember the most from your film.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. One is the parking lot, behind Dean Johns, when they both are conversing. Um, some short choices may be made,
Okay.
and the performances both the actors gave, or three of the actors gave when the cop comes. Um, it's beautiful. Like, again, because of the constraints, we couldn't zero down on the location until the day before. So
Right.
whatever short list I had, I had to redo it, like, because of the geography of that place. But still we were able to, because I know the core, the heart of the scene. I was able to redo the shots on the spot, and then we executed it pretty well. The DOP also, he improvised on the moment, on the go, and the actors did well. And I think that the scene itself is one of my favorites. So that's one. So that location, actually, we went there twice. Like the first day we couldn't complete, so what we did was, we saved some time on another day. We drove there, like it was 3 hours we had, and then within 3 hours we did that scene. But yeah, that's one scene where everything came together. So that's definitely a great moment. That's one of the best moments. One more is in, Chris Carter's house when his caretaker and he talk. I told the actors, this is a script, but this is your relation. You've been helping him for so long, so you have a little bit of a intimacy, like you can talk to him openly.
Yeah.
So, with that backdrop, work, do, go naturally. And then, they both killed it. Like, it was very nice. Like, that's one scene I felt like it's a conversation that could have happened in the real life. It's not a performance, but it's like a real behavior. So that's another one. Like, that's probably one of the two or three scenes where the crew clapped, actually,
Okay.
at the end. Yeah. So yeah, that's a favorite. And also the climax, not
Yeah.
the exact climax, but the Chris Carter's scene.
Right.
We wanted to have a drone there, and it's in Long Beach. It's an
Yeah.
airport city, so the
Okay.
drones don't turn on. This a default security, so we don't know what to do. I didn't know about that, so we just improvised on the go. We took a monopod, and then it was just simple handheld shot, but it just works pretty well. And the music was done very well for that scene. So yeah, I think these three scenes are like, these 3 days of filming were probably one of my best.
But okay, this is very interesting. How did you show it? Because once I thought that okay, maybe you are using a drone or a Jimmy jib, or but then you are saying that it's like a monopod. And but how did you show it like a bird's eye view? How did you take that shot of going it away and eventually elevating and
Yeah,
inclining?
yeah. So it's two operators.
Okay,
One guy, like, who had the Sony camera and the monopod. He would pull it to some length, and then the DOP will grab it from there and keep it up. It'll just keep going up. And what we did was, for perspective, we put a little leaf branch, like a fake leaf, like we cut a little branch from a tree and a C stand. We put it there, so it gives a perspective like it really went up. Yeah. So we just try. I mean, I was kind of devastated that we couldn't use a drone or anything there, because
Right.
that was the movie's biggest moment. But and I was hoping I'll show some people walking, all of that stuff. We couldn't do, yeah, for practical reasons. But whatever we did, it seemed to have worked pretty well for the movie. Yeah,
No, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
Uh,
And it's
so
a
uh, yeah,
it's a
please.
different that one shot is a different camera. Everything else is right,
Okay,
but that one
okay,
is Sony. So we did struggle to color grade it to match.
right.
But then finally we did, and yeah. So yeah, that
So
a lot of improvisation happened, but it worked well. So that's, I mean, on the set maybe it was not a high moment. It's a stressful moment because I don't know if it's going to work. But on the edit, maybe that's a high moment. Yeah,
right, right, right. So that shot was not captured by a cinema camera. That was just like a Sony, high
yeah,
quality Sony camera.
yeah,
Wow, that's interesting. So, I was just wondering to, I wanted to ask you this because before becoming a filmmaker, you are living and working in the US, right? Just
yeah,
like a lot of other people. So I just want you to, just give us a glimpse into what is really like living and making a living in the US, because you are someone who has lived in the US, who's still living in the US,
yeah,
and while pursuing a job, while taking care of the family and, the daily life and the chores and everything, you are also pursuing a dream of filmmaking by actually, and then you are fulfilling that dream as an Indian by, getting a bunch of American actors as well.
yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you that how has it been like been in the US and making a living in the US?
Yeah. So we see in the movies, foreign countries in a certain way, but when you actually come to a foreign country, you understand how it is, right? Um, One thing is the instant feeling about a US when you come is, yeah, this is looking much neater, and people are more polite. Everyone smiles and says hello, good morning, how are you. Um, so that kind of, the first impression is always great, like, wow, this is a great country, we feel like. And then eventually what happens is, and also there is a lot of free time, because you drive to work, you come back, there's nothing to do. Like, you're in a rented apartment, and you know you don't have to take care of anything else. You just get groceries and that's it. Like, you get them for a week or something like that. No other work, there's no distraction, no relatives coming, or you know taking somebody to the hospital, all of that stuff. So there's a lot of free time that can help, but that can also be, that can work against you, like, really boring mundane. Like, what happens is, after a few days it's the same routine, there's no unexpected, like every day just keeps happening the same way. So that can become like a problem for some people. Like, it's just plain simple boring, and you don't know, what am I doing here. That um but so yeah, I think, yeah, over the course of time, you will understand, like, all of the, everything, everything comes together, like how we saw, we showed in the movie. The thing with this country is, like Steve Jobs, when he visited India, he said, your logic can go wrong, but your intuition never goes wrong. And a lot of Indians go by intuition. I think that sums up the experience. Everything is procedural here. Like, like, they put a rule, they do a lot of research, and they put a rule. It may be, you know at a restaurant or at a school or anything like that. And as we touched in our movie, right, those rules can be, you know like, they have a reasoning behind it, but it can irritate, it can be problem, like it can really trouble, like, if someone is walking to a drive through, don't serve the food, because if someone comes on a car and hits them, it's a safety problem, right? It's a well thought rule. But then, in let's say in a place like India, um, the employees will break the rule. They'll go a step above beyond and then say, it's okay, I see you're hungry, so I'll help you. But here, that's not the case. They go a lot, they stick to the rules, which is, at the generally speaking, which is great, because that means less corruption, and then if there is a rule, they have to follow, so things, you can get things done. But also, at times, it can work against you. It can become the same way, like how your day becomes Monday and everything becomes rule based, and then there's no excitement in life. So so that's basically the main difference, I see between India and the Western countries over time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I can confidently suggest that filmmaking has brought like a much needed solace in your life.
Yeah, I did, definitely. Yeah, because
Right.
that's one place where I have to go above and beyond, and then get creative. Like at work, when you do an IT job, you do your work, you follow the procedures, done, you're good. But filmmaking, you are the producer, so you need to get permits. Sometimes they don't give permits, so you have to go around it. A lot of last minute improvements and all of that. Definitely, it it gets it gives me the required excitement, which otherwise, the without which the life would be boring, I would say. Yeah.
Right, right. I have a friend who works as a chef, and he's a very good photographer. So I was just speaking with him that you should post more often. So this
Yeah.
is exactly what he was mentioning, that bike rides, road trips, and photography. This is what gives meaning to my life. Being a
Yeah.
chef is a job, sure, but then there is this other side of life as well, which is indeed worth living, and that
Yeah.
is what makes it worth living.
Yeah. Yeah.
R-
And
right.
speaking of that, this country has huge landscapes. every almost every state is like a country. So much to explore, and a lot of things, which is why, like, when I was making this movie, people said, show skyscrapers, just give a little intro of you're doing in California, show a beach. But no, it's not just those, like, we that's what we see in a lot of films. But this country is more than that. The real life is in the streets and in the middle class houses and stuff like that. So that's what we actually went for here.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, since you mentioned this, so I wanted to ask you something, that right now, when we look at almost all the films that talk about forgotten sportsmen, there is always a sense of reclaiming that lost victory by either depicting a comeback in the same sport, and just winning again in that same arena that
Yeah.
was once surrounded by the huge rounds of applause for that person. But in your film, we see the story of an Olympic gold medalist of his time who is now suffering from dementia, and you are not allowing the audience to feel sympathetic at all for him, because he is very happy with his present life, and he's carefree. Most importantly, he's carefree to an extent that he's ready to give away his gold medal, his badge of honor. So I would love to know why and how you decided to take this approach. Like, did the budget constraints push you to take this decision, or did you always had this in mind that this was going to be the character arc of Christopher Carter, that he doesn't have to go back to winning a race or make someone his protege, which is like a classic
Yeah.
trope used in many
Yeah.
movies. So how did you decide to subvert that trope?
Yeah, so I think some of it is because of budget, but in Gladiator, the villain stabs him, the king stabs him with a poisonous arrow. and then he wants to win and then prove that he's better than the gladiator, right? Maximus. But then he kills the king and he dies. But no one in the world knows except the audience that he was actually stabbed with a poisonous um, arrow. um, Maybe, let's say, if someone said, hey, this king betrayed this, he cheated by, but still this guy won, this is even more victory, that's like a show, right? But for me, the fact that no one knows, the actual worth of that fight, it makes it more heroic. Like, it's, I don't know, somehow I like a grandeur, and that's, probably not necessary. That's what I my thinking, comes from that lines. And I think, that's what worked, or shaped this story. But yes, the budget constraints were another thing. And what does he want at this, like, you make a big celebration, he doesn't care. His memory itself is fading. He probably won't even remember the next day. For him, only thing is, when he has that hamburger, he gets some good memories, recalls some good memories, so he wants to, but the place is shutting down, so he wants to somehow preserve that. It's a very simple, genuine cause for him. And that's what we wanted to fulfill. Like, I guess at that point of time, he doesn't care anything else. Like, we were thinking, what if we make him the owner of the burger chain? Like, he doesn't care, he don't want to be the owner, right? So yeah, I think, like, it's a mix of both budget, but also the thinking that, not everything has to be grand. Yeah.
Right. So, can I say that you like whenever you watch a film or whenever you prefer watching movies, you don't generally prefer watching grandeurs and spectacles, and you like to, pivot more towards the simplistic way of living
Right.
stories. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Like, as you're saying, I was remembering this another movie, Moneyball.
Okay.
It's not. They did have a big victory and everything, but the movie is not about that. The coach and his assistant, they are watching another game. There is a funny moment, and then, they talk some philosophy about this is what is baseball. That is more memorable. I remember that scene frame by frame. So that's more memorable than, like, in some other game, someone wins a race or, gets first. Yes,
Yeah.
I think for me, at least as an audience, that's what is more rewarding. Yeah, and
Yeah.
which is how I wrote this. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Which are some of the films I would love to know? Which are some of the films that, after watching them, uh, they like define the word cinema for you? Like, are there any films after watching them you felt like, wow, this is truly in its most raw form? This is cinema.
Yeah, I think there's many, but there's one film, if I have to pick. There's a South African filmmaker, James Ace. He made a film called, "The Gods Must Be Crazy." There's a part two as well. I
Yeah.
watched it when I was a little kid. I watched it later. For me, somehow that's cinema. That's, the most simplistic, very funny, genuine characters. Nothing made up. So I think that movie has a big influence on me. There's more, like, Ram Gopal Verma's. There's a movie called Kshanam,
Yeah.
that, and I think Company to some extent. Some of Mani Ratnam's work. He's like, for me, he does his movies have the best everything, best writing, best performances, best set work, and everything. Especially the films before Guru. So those, lately I started liking Coen Brothers films as well. A lot of Coen Brothers, Oh Brother, or Fargo, a bunch of other films. Yeah,
True Grit as well, I guess.
yeah, Hudsucker Proxy. Yeah,
Yeah.
so their movies. Yeah, these, and Alexander Payne's movies, Election. yeah, some of Richard Linklater films. So yeah, these are the kind of films that
Yeah.
define cinema for me. That if I make one film like any of these, I consider myself successful. Yeah.
So, can we expect your next film, which I hope happens soon, to be on a very similar lines of How's That for a Monday?
No, in fact, I'm actually writing two.
Okay.
They won't. I mean, in some ways, they could be similar. You can draw similarities, but they'll be different for sure. Like one compliment or one constant comment I got is how this movie is real. This can happen in someone's life, anyone's life, any IT guy in US, in their life. But the next movie, maybe not so much. But I think the traits, as we mentioned, maybe there won't be grand moments, grand gestures, and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, I think after 4 or 5 films, if I get to make, then we'll be able to see a pattern clearly. Yeah,
Definitely, definitely. You have a lot of times the pieces I've read about you, you have mentioned about Ram Gopal Verma,
yeah,
very sincerely and as a fanboy.
yeah,
So, what is it about his films that you like the most?
yeah. So one thing is he's from the Telugu states. So early before venturing into Hindi movies, he made some Telugu films, and he, like, a lot of times we watch movies, why is this movie happening this way, it could be done differently. And then he said, yeah, here it is, check it out. So I think 89 he debuted, 1989. So for that time what he did was like very shocking for the Shiva, with Shiva, for the Telugu audience. um, but also another thing I like about his films are he does it in a low budget. Like lot of his films, he don't count on big stars, or he don't even most times repeat his DOPs. He gets like the newest DOP in the scene, but he can still get a stunning visual. So for one of the things that is inspiring for me is the low budget. Like even if the movie doesn't really do well, it'll still be more or less profitable. So that's kind of a model I like. But with him, there's one thing is his movies. The other thing is his philosophy. At least 19 I mean till 2010, 2015, his interviews were like really interesting. They opened the world for me. Like he like he says, question everything, unlearning. Like we are fed with a lot of cliches and a lot of nonsense, and the first thing you need to do is unlearn.
Right.
Maybe you don't need to learn something, you just unlearn these the wrong things that you learned. So I he ran a blog for some time, about I think 3 4 years. I used to constantly like follow for updates, and then every single update we used to read and debate. So that shaped my thinking. That opened, like, from someone who came from a village and who didn't have a lot of exposure to literature and all of that stuff. I think his blog gave a jump start, a big exposure to the world, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Again, I later on, as I understood things more, maybe I don't agree with him 100%,
Yeah.
but he gave me that jump start. So, which is why I have a genuine love for him. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I call him, like, I like to call him someone who plays with lights and shadows. I think
yeah,
that's something that he does excellently well. His visual storytelling is like second to none, in my opinion.
yeah.
Uh, while making this film, what, like, since this was the first time that you were directing actors, so amongst everything that you gave them as a direction, what was like something what was the biggest advice or the biggest uh, line of direction that you gave to your actors when they started shooting? From the perspective of a debut filmmaker, I would love to know this.
Got you. Like an example of a particular scene, or just generally?
Generally, you can pick a scene, you can just share in general.
Yeah. So there's this opening scene, right? The billionaire scene. So see, the thing with actors is, if they are good actors and professional actors, they come prepared. So you're not worried about making sure they by heart the lines or that kind of stuff. Yeah, the director's main worry is, are they doing it on point, as it is to be done by the character, because they don't have full context, or they their understanding is different. They by hearted the lines, but the way they understood could be different. So biggest job of the director in that kind of environment is just telling them, no, no, I meant this. When the character says this line, this is what he means. You give them that correction, and that they're done. They'll do the right job. So for the opening scene, right, with the billionaire, see, he's basically a eccentric guy. He reads a lot. Obviously he's a genius, which is why he is a self-made billionaire. But there's a lot of bullshit also they bring onto the table, because they're thinking they have all these different kinds of philosophies they want to experiment and things like that, right? So he's the kind of a guy, he thinks and then talks. um, like some people, they just talk directly without having to think at the moment. But he's that kind of a guy. He's forming his thoughts and then talking, right? So I was telling my actor that, but he's still not able to crack it. And then I told him, watch this Steve Jobs interview. Just randomly I opened something, and then that's what Steve Jobs does. He think, even if you see his interviews, even Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, they actually think for like a few seconds before answering. So I told him, see, what he's doing. He's taking time to think. He's looking up, thinking, turning around. He's not looking on the face, because he's thinking, he's looking somewhere else, and then slow body language, and he's so excited about the thought. So the way he says is something different. So when I told him that, and then he gave the reference, it worked. Like two takes, we had the scene. So that was one. Yeah, I think my biggest lesson was, don't talk too much, don't confuse them, just, and also don't give wrong reference. It can really work against you. Tell what you mean. What does the character mean when he says that line, and then just give any reference, that maybe one reference, and then tell the meaning of that reference. Just giving the reference, like, no reference will have all the elements together. So you just have to tell what the character is going through. So when I told him, you think and then you talk, and then you are so much in love with what you're saying, so you say it in a certain way, then he understood. So I think that's what it is. You know don't overload them with a lot of information. Whatever you tell, keep it precise, but help them crack it. Yeah. And sometimes just let them do their version, and
Right.
then they, like, there's one moment where the manager says, to the gang, the only guy who knows how to fix this, he was laid off this morning.
Right. Right.
So he told me, the actor, when I'm saying it, can I feel like, oh damn, that's right, how am I going to survive, can I feel that way? I thought, yeah, I didn't intend the scene to be that way, but then I thought, yeah, maybe, it works. I told him, yeah, give it a try, and it worked. That's one thing. And there's another interesting story I'll tell. The rooftop scene.
Yeah.
We have the authenticator, right? The old man.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was very excited, but he brought a hat, you know, that has a little bit of colors and a feather. He really wanted to use it, and I don't want him to use that. If I say no, I don't know. elderly man. I don't know what he feels. um, and everyone in the set was saying, yo, that's a great hand, man, let's use it, but I know it's not going to suit for the scene. So what
Right.
do I do? Like my DOP, everyone is telling it's great, let's use it, let's use it. But I know if I do it that way, I'm going to regret. So what I did was, yeah, let's do one take with that, and after that, let's do one take without it. I think some of them know that I'm going to use the second take. Some of them didn't know, but you know what, you have to just work it out somehow. But the crew can be deceiving. A director have to be really careful of what he wants, because the crew is like, yeah, yeah, I mean, they are, I mean, again, not many people see it in the overall context. Only on the set there's hardly three or four people who see it from the overall context. People who came for that scene, they don't know the whole story and everything, and they can just be like, I look, for me it looks great, I mean, why not, but then the director has to protect, he has to think, is the right choice or not in the overall context. And sometimes you just say no, sometimes you just say, yeah, one take that way and one take this way, and then because you don't want to hurt them. Yeah, it's a little bit of a psychological game.
Right, right, right. That's that's very interesting actually.
Yeah,
There is one thing that happens in the film, and I have seen this happening in, of course, every film that comes out. Uh, but since this is a debut project and this is not like a big budget movie, right? Yet it, you know, has an amazing level of brilliance. So I want to ask you about that one moment when Kaushik's character is, he asks them, ki, oh, give me the phone. And then he takes the phone, and on his phone, there seems to be an actual app that has been installed. So
yeah,
I just want to know that did you guys actually create an app, or was it like a post production thing that you did ki, okay, we will put a green screen on the phone and then we will, show it on the edit, you just have to match your fingers. How did you do it? Because it is something very minute, but even getting it accurate becomes important. Because
yeah,
I mean, I don't mean to demean your efforts, but uh, it's a different screen, because he is using an iPhone and you are taking an Android screen. But still, to incorporate such small bits and pieces. So I'm talking about this specifically because I was like, wait, how did you do this? Because it's a debut project and you have gotten it absolutely right. So how did you guys actually pull it off? That is what I want to know.
yeah. Great question. So I'm, again, Christopher Nolan does on camera effects, right? The in Inception, the
Right.
revolving thing, the room. So I'm a big fan of in-camera effects. Partly because I'm scared. So a lot of our VFX look so bad. So I'm scared. I don't want, again, think we'll fix in post and then it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And we did plan having a mock-up app. And one of the biggest problems we had for the film was the production designer couldn't continue in her role after the first 2 days. So a lot of production design that was planned, it didn't come in place, which means we didn't have that app. So last minute, everything is there, location, actors, camera, everything is there, but the app is not there. I had to make a call. I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's just put a chroma screen, just do it. Only thing I did was I told Kaushik, I'm thinking this button will be here, this button will be here. So you're doing like enter client ID and then entering his number, like the client ID, 13 digit client ID, and then click submit. It's here, and then the location shows. Imagine that. Put your fingers, roughly, which he did. He did a great job actually. After that, and another mistake we did was, usually when you do green screen, you need to have pointers on
Right.
all the corners and in the middle, because when the phone is moving in a three-dimensional space, um, for them to track it, for the
Yeah.
VFX artist to track, the dots really help. And I didn't do that. Very
Okay.
bad thing. Yeah.
Okay.
But once we have the scenes,
Right.
we need to go to a VFX artist. One VFX artist couldn't do. I posted on Reddit. This is what I need help with. A few other came. I think it was Darren. There's one guy from Jitin from Trivandrum, Kerala, and another person, Darren, from somewhere in Europe. So they both helped. I think this was Darren. He said, "Yeah, I can try. It's tough because you don't have the tracking markers, but I can try." And he did a good job. He did a good job. But we had to help him with the design first. So
Right.
we came up with the app design. The logo could look here. The UI, because I'm in IT, I kind of know like the elements of, even you don't even need to be in IT. If you observe apps, you will know. So we had to design the app, and Kaushik's phone is like a testing app, right?
Yeah.
So in testing apps, to make sure they know it's a testing app, they deliberately put different colors, like red popping colors, that kind of stuff. So his phone has different colors than the production, the live app. So those kind of details, I mean, I know, and I wrote them. So we designed the app in that way, and then we gave the screens to Darren, and he was able to add them to the phone. And then the finger movement, right?
Yeah.
Based on how the finger movement is, we came up with that 13 digit patient ID. If he's touching
Okay.
on 673, okay, let's make it 673. So a lot of kind of a reverse engineering and a little bit of creativity took place. But
Right.
yeah, with the help of right artists, I was able to do it right. Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm so glad I asked this because again, like I said, something very small but then takes so much of effort behind the scenes.
Yes, yes.
And you spoke of Christopher Nolan, so in fact, I was about to ask you that especially after watching your film, that are you in general, a fan of thrillers and non-linear narratives?
No, I mean, I was this simplicity thing. Over time, I figured, yeah, maybe not. Let's not complicate it. Tell it simply, yet make a point, effective impression. Yeah, but again, I'm kind of like I watched Animal screenplay,
Okay.
right? Oh, you can really go back and forth and still have an impactful impression. So it's a constant back and forth, but in general, like more of, I think Coen Brothers, even RGV, if you notice, until a certain point of time, there's not a single flashback scene in his movies until Rakta Charitra, I guess, or even maybe in Rakta Charitra, I don't know. But he doesn't use flashbacks or cutting back and forth and stuff.
Yeah.
And Coen Brothers are very simple too. So I'm more leaning towards that, like keep it simple but effective. Yeah.
Right. What if, okay, I wanted to ask you this that we are in the final phase of this conversation. I wanted to ask you that if you had to create a watch list as a starter pack for someone who wants to start with Telugu cinema, because I am also still discovering Telugu cinema. Most
Yeah.
of the credits actually go to the Pushpas and the
Yeah.
the big
The
big
famous ones.
commercial, yeah, the famous ones, let's say. Yes, but then there are movies like Awe, which I really liked. So I would love to know from you that is there, let's say, a list of five or six films that serve as the perfect way to begin with Telugu cinema, in your opinion?
Yeah. I'll do a combination of old and new.
Yeah,
um, I'll try to bring those which are not famous. There's this film called Mattu Vadalara. Okay, it's tiny bit famous, but not that much. Very interesting film, not that well known. Mattu Vadalara, that's one film, and there's another film called Raja Raja Chora. Very funny, it has a good meaning and everything. Raja Raja Chora, that, and then I'll go back a little. There's this film called Aithe. Okay. Again, some people know it. It's from, I think, 2004 or something like that. Aite, very nice film. Um, Going back further, there's this film called Sinduram, another great film, very vastly underrated. And a lot of people, when they talk about Vishwanath films, they talk about Shankarabharanam, and but there is another film, Swati Mutyam, which was done by Kamal Hassan. Maybe some elements, yeah, not everyone might like, but great, one of the best performances. Swati Mutyam, that's another film I recommend. The same Chandrasekhar Eleti, same director, the RGV film I mentioned, Kshanak. I think he tried to remake Daud, changed a few things and made Daud, but Kshanak is brilliant. Like Venkatesh and Sridevi is like a brilliant performance. That's another good film I recommend. Um, Pushpaka Vimanam, there is one film, Pushpak, maybe it's famous. I don't know if it is a Kannada film or Telugu film to say.
Are you so sorry to interrupt? Are you talking about that silent film starring Kamal
Yes,
Hassan, Pushpak?
yes,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
It's
It's
famous, so maybe
yes,
I don't
yes.
have to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, you won't
Um,
believe this, but watched Pushpak as a kid on Hangama TV. I know it sounds bizarre, but yeah.
yeah. But I mean, till now, I haven't seen a silent film that didn't use the title cards in here and there to convey the message. Um, I think Pushpak was the only one. Maybe, yes, there are some films in the Chaplin and that era, but in the last 30, 40 years, I haven't seen a film like there was one. I couldn't recall the name of that film. It won Oscar. It's a silent film, an American film, but it still had to use the cards in many places to convey the story. But Pushpak, yeah, it's a great feat how they conveyed an entire, like, a love story and a whole, humorous story without a single title text card. So that's amazing. But there's one director called Chandrasekhar Elate. I think there's a film called Okadu. I'm trying to remember Okadu Nadu, um, action film. Again, some parts are, a little bit stereotyped, but another great film, like great action and really good film. That's another thing, you can watch to know. I mean, that's one of the best films in Telugu, in my opinion. Yeah, these.
Right. Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. And personally, do you have any comfort movies that you like to watch, that you like to, come back to again and again?
Yeah, I again, like last couple of days, I was going back to, like, I watched Crimes and Misdemeanors by Woody Allen. I know the whole thing about Woody Allen that's
Yeah.
going on, but leaving that aside, I don't know, I just felt like I need to watch that film. I watched that. Generally, I watch Boyhood now and then. Another brilliant film I love. Um, Kshanam I watch. There's some Telugu films I watch just for, there's for the comedy and that kind of stuff. A lot of like, there's a film called Venki. I watch some sequences. But yeah, these are the films. Like, I can go back to any Coen Brothers film, and then, like, randomly fully watch a 3 hour film, no problem. I just feel like, oh wow, the cinematic medium can do something like this. Feel so good and sleep. Yeah. So I actually watched Blood Simple also the other day. Yeah, it was for the first time, but yeah, I'm just feeling like, okay, I need to watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? You know. So yeah, I think Coins films, Linklater films, those are the ones I go back to. Yeah. And
Right.
yeah, some of the, even Maniratnam, like someone shared like a meme, Bombay, one meme, a different, some political meme, but then the scene where Arvind Swami was talking to those two guys. I am not Hindu, I am not Muslim, and but I was focusing on, you know what could have happened to get to these. They all have makeup. The whole street is burnt and there is smoke coming, and then he's talking so angrily. Wow. a director, what all he could have built in the story and everything else to come to this point. It's so great. It is just like, again, watch any Maniratnam film and also just feel so good and then sleep. Yeah. So yeah, these are the films I would go back any day.
Amazing. That's great. Uh, is there anything, in your opinion, which you feel that should change both from the end of cinema, Indian cinema, and from the end of audiences as well?
No, I mean, I think one thing I would love to see is, I'm not saying it because I have a movie out there. Even I said this 10 years back too. I think, when the OTTs came, a lot of directors was like, "This is great. It is very empowering." But I know that at one point, these OTTs will either run short of funds, or they'll be like, "Okay, fine, enough of free movies. I need to start charging." So I always felt that there should not be any intermediary between the audience and the filmmakers. Yeah, there should be platforms, they charge something, but I would love to have a system where audience are paying for each individual movie as opposed to a subscription or anything like that. It may be even 10 rupees, 20 rupees. I want to watch that film. I'm paying 20 rupees rightfully. So, maybe 10 rupees or 15 rupees goes to the filmmaker. Rest is for the platform. No one else is deciding the worth of a film besides the audience. Like how it works now is an OTT platform, they have an assessment, will it have market or not, and they will either decide to put it in the platform or buy it. I think in an ideal world, you can a filmmaker should be able to choose a certain platform, maybe top 4 or 5 platforms. It's there for the audience, and it's the audience, they decide to pay a particular rate, and then so the decision power is at the audience, not some middleman. That's how theaters work, right? Well, I would love for OTT platforms also to work that way. It may be a little bit more expensive for audience when we do that, or maybe not actually. But yeah, I think some random person doesn't have to judge the worth of a film. Let the audience judge. I think I would love to see that model coming in place.
Right. And how was your experience working with PVR?
It was good. They're upfront. They said, okay, fine. They're like, you want to release is a certain kind of film. How many theaters? This is what we recommend, and it is in alignment with what we were planning. They don't charge anything. There's a tiny bit of a fee for delivery, like 7,000 rupees per week per screen, which is not humongous. They take 50% cut. As long as the audience are coming to the theaters, they'll keep the film. you know so it was very fair model. It was good only two things were, this is a 90-minute film. They still had to have an interval, and they have like a 20 minutes promos at the beginning.
Yeah,
So that was a little bit of a problem, I think. And
I agree.
also, yeah, plus one more thing is, minimum 15 tickets have to be sold 3 hours before the show for the show to continue. So, I mean, it is also fair. I think they are running a business. I agree. But, you know, for a movie like this, there could be walk ins in the last moment. The 15 tickets or 20 tickets could have been sold, 5 minutes before the film, right? So I felt, yeah, maybe they should have waited until the last minute to decide to drop the screening or not. But then I think it's a practical thing. Yeah, these two were, for this kind of a film, these two were the inconveniences. But other than that, it was a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you approach them? Like, did you talk to a PR person, or did you just, started emailing them? How does someone like you, a debut filmmaker, approach PVR or a cinema chain? From that perspective, I'm asking this question.
Yeah. So we, in our case, there was some other film that had a similar screening. My lead actor Kaushik, he came to know about that. He said, "There's a PVR office here. Let me go walk in, and then talk to them and see how it goes." And that's all we did. Panjaguta, there is a Hyderabad PVR office. He went there. He said, we made a film. It's ready for screening. I'm the lead actor in that. We want to screen it. Can we use PVR? They said, yeah, let's talk. And then in one or two meetings, it's done. Yeah. So yeah, if there is and they actually watched the teaser, some movie content, and they're like, okay, let's do it. So maybe they do that. That filtering happens. But yeah, a filmmaker, I think, should be able to find the local PVR office and go and talk to them. See, the thing is, I think not every time there's major films and all the screens are filled. So in between, there are good dates where a small film can get in, and they both want to help you, but they also want, instead of having an empty theater, maybe 50 or 20 people come to this movie. That helps them, that helps you. So they are doing a business. They want to cut the middleman. They're okay cutting the middleman. So I think it's cool. I mean, any filmmaker should be able to get to a PVR's office and then work it out. And they actually told, maybe this location is good in Bangalore. Maybe we asked Vijayawada. They said, yeah, maybe people won't show up, but we wouldn't recommend. So they gave a recommendation. So we didn't screen it in Vijayawada and that kind of. So they will. It's not just that they'll leave screens. They'll be realistic, and then they'll advise you what is the right thing to do. Yeah. So I think it's probably Inox also they bought. So, and there's another chain, especially in Hyderabad or Telugu states, Asian. So
Okay.
we did screen in one of the Asian theaters too. But I think if there are these multiplexes, a few of them, and if they welcome the filmmakers directly, it's a great thing. You can cut the middleman, and because these are corporates, public companies, they are upfront, and they don't, like the revenue, the payments and all will be transparent. So yeah. But another downside, they're not in the rural um, you know
Yeah.
area, so that's a downside. But yeah, if you have a suitable multiplex film, yes, a filmmaker should be able to give it a shot by talking to PVR directly.
Right. That's actually a good idea. Uh, this is something I asked Ram as well. Ram Venkateshikar. He was also kind enough to spare some time and talk to me about different things. So I asked him, and I like his answer is still very memorable to me. I would love to know from you which is one of your most, like, actually the most memorable theater experience, since we are talking about theaters. So do you have any, like, the most amazing memorable theater experiences that you've
Yeah,
ever had?
yeah. There's few. I'll tell you one. It's in 2003, 4 around that time, or maybe one. There's this film called Idiot, done by Puri Jagannath. Ravi Teja was the lead actor. That's his first major hit. So I like the trailer and the songs and everything. And Puri Jagannath made Badri before, so somehow I was a fan of him. And